I'll write you down.
Yes.
Sit near the front. You guys sit near the front. So you can hear them? I'll go over here and ask my guys. Not always, not maybe. I'm hurting everybody. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna go use the restroom and I will be right. They're signing everything. Oh, I saw. Yeah, ignore me. I don't know what that is. You know, they're I'm signing my students. Oh, okay.
Lights on. Stage light on. Just turn it on. Maybe he's up there. I don't know.
I'm just signing in my students. You're not one of mine. I don't think, right? But it'd be great if you could go to the first 4 rows. The poor man doesn't. Wait, what am I doing? Does he have the mic? I don't know. I think that we just set up the mic, but see what we do.
We're very close. I did not do it. I have 4 kids. When I don't have 3 minutes, I sit there and scrub.
think you and I are still.
Okay.
I'm a Gemini, so I had a twin. Clearly it means failure. It means you'll be fired, actually. I probably need to be able to be somewhat mobile in case they need help.
Hello? Now let's just hope I don't fall back down those stairs. Hi, my name is Luana Schneider, and I am the Executive Director and Co-Founder of Tempered Steel. To give you a little background, Tempered Steel was started by my son and I after his Humvee was blown up in 2006 in Iraq, and he was severely injured. We decided to start Tempered Steel to tell the stories behind the scars and wounds of war. And in order to do that, I have wounded military veterans, both male and female, who come out and talk to schools, community groups, and organizations and tell their stories. And we're going to have a speaker here today, obviously, to talk to you about it. But first, we're going to play a video. It's called The Hero, and the song that is in the video was written for my son and I. So I hope you enjoy. Thank you.
She heard them say, it's a boy. She watched him play, she packed his toys. Driver's license, cap and gown, to uniform and army proud. Medals on the humidor, and headlines scream they're sending more. He goes again, she waits at home. They call her on the telephone. Red-eye flag to Walter Reed. She holds his hand on her knees, looks at him, a different man, lifts his chin, and then she says, thank you, son, from the home of the brave, for standing tall when others looked away. We all applaud when you walk by. You are the hero in my eyes. People passed him on the street, no idea he's why they're free. She holds the door, he makes his way. He looks into her eyes to say, thank you, Mom, from the home of the brave, for standing tall when others look away. They should all applaud when you walk by. You are the hero in my eyes. You gave me life, made me walk with pride. You're the hero they don't see.
Well,
thanks for coming out. Okay, yep. I don't do this very often. The microphone. Okay. Sure, everybody hear me okay? Yep. Okay, I got the thumbs up. And thanks for coming out today and braving the cool October weather. Our speaker today is Staff Sergeant Derek Moody, deployed twice to Iraq. He received injuries in his last deployment that led to his medical retirement. So due to his valor, he's receiving the following medals and commendations. Purple Heart 3 times, Army Commendation Medal with V device, Army Commendation Medal 5 times, Army Achievement Medal 6 times, Non-Commissioned Officer Medal, Iraqi Medal 4 times, Korean Defense Service Medal, Good Conduct Medal, National Defense Service Medal, Army Service Medal, Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal 3 times, Ranger Tab, Airborne Badge, Air Assault Medal, Combat Infantry and Expert Infantry badges. So, without further ado, nice welcome to Staff Sergeant Derek Moody.
okay. Can you guys hear me all right? Yeah. Correct. Who here, can we turn those down a little bit? It's like lightning, right? Or not? Okay. Who here was actually alive when 9/11 happened? Good portion. What did you guys really remember of the war? Other than what's not really been on the news that you heard?
And I was in college in 9/11, so I was getting ready for class.
It changed everything. That's a really good point. I could sit here and give you guys why I joined the Army, but I don't think you're really here to know why I joined the Army. What I can say was I come from a long history of people who traditionally serve for the betterment of the community to really uphold and enforce the Constitution. In the end, that took me to the Army, which took me to Airborne School, Ranger School, and eventually war. The first time I deployed to combat was 2003. It was an 18-month rotation. Typically, the longest someone really goes to combat is a year. But I was there for a year and a half the first time. So you can imagine how much stuff a person would see in war after a year and a half. Towards the very tail end of my first deployment to Iraq, my Humvee was struck by a car bomb. We call them V-beds, or vehicle-borne IEDs. What does that mean? What does that really mean to you guys when you hear the word car bomb? Yeah.
A car that's been sabotaged to explode?
That's exactly it. They typically use these giant artillery shells that weigh about 150 pounds, and they have 90 pounds of that is reinforced steel, and the rest is explosives. They typically use one of those in a car. They just drive it up to your car and blow you up. The one that hit my truck had 10 of those in there, and the end result was 4 out of the 5 people that were inside that truck got, for the most part, vaporized by the explosion. What had happened was the car pulled up right beside our truck and detonated. Fortunately for me, now I can say fortunately, I didn't always say that, but fortunately for me, I was right behind the 50 caliber machine gun. So I was not inside, I was half in, half out. So when it blew up, it actually launched me about 75 feet backing away from the truck that we were in, and I essentially hit a courtyard wall, which is about 10 feet tall, made of bricks. And when I hit the wall, it broke both my hips, basically shattered both my legs and both my hips. I had biological shrapnel on my neck and face from, they tell me it was from the person driving the car, but you can't really tell. They can't really say for sure who it was. All I knew was that I had teeth in my neck, bone fragments in my face, and I was basically crushed from the waist down. That happened in 2003. After I recovered, I was able to get healed, get cleared to go back and serve the last, I think it was month and a half that my unit was still in Iraq. So that was, to me, that was a big victory, because I had, the whole time you're in the hospital, after you get injured, you're not really thinking about, oh, you know, poor me, yada, yada, yada. You're thinking about the people that are still over there, your comrades who are still over there fighting. And so to me, it meant a lot that I can go get some payback for what happened to me and my friends. We'll fast forward about 6 months after I get back from Iraq. When I first went to Iraq, I was a bachelor. I had no wife, no kids. I was a soldier. After my first deployment, I got married, had 2 kids, Ethan and Kale. And that kind of changed everything for me, because as a soldier, it's easy to go off and to put your life on the line when you don't really have much to risk. So when I got married, had my kids, it kind of changed how I looked at combat. It changed how I looked at everything, really. I didn't want to die. But unfortunately, after my second son was born, or actually my first son was born, I got the orders to go back to Iraq in 2007. When I was there in 2007, we left here shortly before Christmas. On April 13th of 2007, at about 11:30 at night, in this span of about 8 minutes, I was shot 7 times and took 2 giant pieces of shrapnel from an RPG to my forehead. The first time I was shot in the back of the head by a sniper. And you can see my helmet is right up here. If anybody wants to come up and look at it, you can stick your finger in the hole and actually see how big that bullet was that went through my helmet. I was on top of a ladder. I was actively engaging enemy combatants when my head exploded, or felt like it exploded. Obviously it didn't. But it felt like it exploded. Everything widened out. I wasn't quite unconscious. I just went from a state of incredible stress to almost bliss. I didn't feel nothing. I didn't really hear nothing. Everything that I saw was very bright. And then everything zeroed back in as I was falling off of the ladder that I was on while I was shooting into the street. When I was in that street, I looked in front of me and I could see 4 gun trucks that was about 50 feet away. So I knew that I could just make it from where I fell to those trucks, I'd be just fine because I was still alive, even though my head was bleeding profusely and I couldn't really feel anything from the shoulders up. When I first got up to try to run, or what resembled a run to the truck, it felt like someone had taken a giant sledgehammer. You know those giant circus sledgehammers that people hit those things to ring a bell? It felt like there was 4 or 5 of them that simultaneously hit me in the back. What it actually was a burst of machine gun fire from a PKM machine gun. Who's seen Rambo here? You know, the one where he's sitting there with a big machine gun firing away with a big pile of brass. It was basically a Soviet version of that machine gun that Rambo was firing that shot me in the back 6 times. Fortunately, the equipment that I had really did save my life on both accounts. Obviously the helmet and a 3/4 inch piece of ceramic covered steel that was in my back called satin joints. What that had done was when the bullets hit him, it pretty much, the bullets exploded in the vest. But the very last one from that burst kind of split in two and went around my spine and into, one went into my lung and the other one kind of just damaged it. Still didn't knock me out after getting shot in the head, after getting shot in the back, falling off on the floor. I still didn't lose consciousness yet, surprisingly. I don't know if it's because I'm Norwegian or if I'm dumb, I don't know what it was, but I just wouldn't go to sleep. And so I don't know if they were trying to hit me with the RPG or if they were trying to hit the truck. I kind of like to think they were pissed off at me because they didn't get me with the headshot. They didn't get me with the Rambo shot to the back. So they were going to fire a rocket-propelled grenade at me. Well, that didn't even hit me. It blew up like 50 feet away, or no, 15 meters away, and exploded. And these RPG rounds, the new RPG 7s, well, not new now, but at the time, that thing could take out a tank. Well, it blew up on the building, and 2 pieces of metal from that RPG stuck right in my forehead right here. And out of all the scars I have one that's up here in my hairline, you can kind of see where the bullet came out. And I have 2 little slivers right here. That's what really, I don't know if it was my lungs collapsing or if it was just my brain said, screw it, going to sleep. But that's when I really blacked out and didn't really wake up for a while. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about my recovery in the hospital. I really want you guys to really understand what happens after all that carnage. You would think that life can't really get too much worse after all that. But I would really take all those gunshot wounds and explosions over and over and over and over again for a year than to really have to go through what I essentially went through after I got shot, after I got blown up, after the bullet wounds and the scars really healed. There was a lot of residual damage to my brain, to my overall personality. The doctors don't really know if it was the gunshot injury or the explosions or football that really essentially left me with a traumatic brain injury. I think it's pretty obvious when you have a bullet bounce off your head that that's probably the cause of your brain injuries. What that bullet wound to the head did to me, it basically took all the math skills that I had learned almost from the time that I really started to learn, kindergarten, all the way up through some of the college trigonometry that I was doing before I went to Iraq. So I had to start all over again on that, but that wasn't even really the hard part. Okay, big deal, you lose a little bit of math. But really, what really still to this day really affects me is the psychological damage that was done to me. I can't even remember who I used to be when I was your guys' age. I can't remember the funny, happy person that would always tell dad jokes and stuff that all my friends told me that I used to be. For the longest time, I lived, and I still do to this day, live with rage, remorse, guilt, depression, a constant desire to not want to be on this earth. I don't know if it's because of the lives that I took in combat or watching men far better than myself bleed out and grab for someone who's not there, wanting someone to hug right before they die. Those are things that really change who you are as a person. And it changed me so much that it didn't matter that I was married at the time. It didn't matter that I had 2 beautiful children. It didn't, all the awards that I had, it didn't matter. I just wanted to die. So I tried to kill myself. I sat in my bathroom and I tried to kill myself. My wife banging on the door, my kids crying. I could hear the firemen come in the house, try to get me out of the bathroom. Basically what was going on was I was letting those guys who tried to kill me unsuccessfully so many times in Iraq, in a country somewhere other than where I belong, kill me in my own bathroom in Wichita, Kansas. After I survived the gunshot wound to the head, the 6 rounds to the back, the RPG shrapnel to my forehead, getting launched out of a truck that just, for all lack of better purposes, vaporized with some of my closest friends in it. I was letting them kill me. And that's really what woke me up and got me focused on actually recovering. And all that happened in 2009. It's 2019, almost 2020, and I'm still recovering. My recovery is going to last until the day I die. Because there's nothing that's really going to fix, to take away all that trauma that I've seen, all of the trauma that I inflicted on other humans. There's nothing that can make that go away. A lot of people with some numbers or letters behind their name would say that there's this treatment for this diagnosis. My diagnosis that I have on top of the traumatic brain injury with a cognitive defect is I have severe post-traumatic stress disorder with a rage complex. If you go look on whatever treatment book there is to treat that disorder, they're going to have a way that they want that treated. And they think that that one treatment should apply to everybody that has post-traumatic stress disorder with the same complex that I have. But I can say that my post-traumatic stress is different than Luana's post-traumatic stress. There's someone in this group that has post-traumatic stress, and what works for you or what works for me is not going to work for everybody else. But they still tried to cut and paste that treatment onto me to the point that I was on well over 10 prescription drugs to address something that all I really needed was to identify my triggers and how to cope with those triggers. Give me a constructive way to vent all that rage, all that hate, all that anger into something other than a pill. Or now they have injections. So I went on this long journey of trying to identify all these things that set me off. And all these things that I had to do for each one of those things. And I have a lot. And that's what real recovery is sitting there and going, okay, this really sets you off. How can we prevent this? Or how can we help you operate and function and be a successful member of society while you're dealing with that issue? Like for me, for instance, I can't be, it's funny to say this, but I can't be around groups larger than 2 or 3 without have to rely on coping skills. Because my brain tries to assess every single threat. And when I identify a threat, how can I defeat that threat and survive? And so if there's a group larger than 3, do you know how busy your brain is trying to identify threats and overcome those? It's a lot to really swallow. And I would not be able to come up and talk to groups like this or larger without identifying something that I can do to address that fear, that anxiety, that fight or flight desire. And that's really being able to do that, identifying triggers and implement coping skills, has helped me in ways that I could never really describe. I've been able to take my post-traumatic stress and set 8 10 state records for Kansas, 3 American records in the sport of powerlifting. I've been able to take the skills that I've learned, identifying my own triggers and implementing coping skills for those triggers, to go out into society and help other people with mental illnesses to identify their individual triggers, which allows them to re-engage with society. And I think that's what actual recovery is. That's actual treatment. Throwing pills at somebody hoping they'll stick, more often than not, will cause that person to kill themselves or to get worse. That's my perspective. That's my experience. I don't want you guys to think that's fact. That's just what I've learned. Because I know when those doctors threw all those pills at me, all it did was make me worse and make me want to die. And that's kind of my journey that's gotten me to this point. I've gone from laying in my bathroom dying to going out and helping other people overcome their mental illness, identifying what works best for them to recover, even to the point of me being a cop here in their very near future. Because there's this stigmatism of post-traumatic stress, or traumatic brain injury. Oh, this dude's going to go out, he's going to do a bunch of wild stuff, he's going to hurt somebody. That's not the truth. Soldiers, anybody with post-traumatic stress, they are the most, in my mind, resilient human being on the face of the planet, because they have to shoulder all their issues, all their trauma, and still be friendly and shake hands and smile and kiss babies and all that stuff, while still waging their internal war that they're fighting every single day. I mean, do you guys have any experience with anybody you know personally that has post-traumatic stress disorder? Anybody? Yes.
Just want to interject real quick. Sorry, my leg went to sleep. Just so everybody knows, PTSD, which all we know is a traumatic, it actually changes the physiology of the brain. They can do an MRI or a CAT scan and see the changes within a brain that it makes. So along with the traumatic brain injury, which is already an injury, physical injury to the brain, now with PTSD, it's causing physical changes to the brain as well. So when you combine PTSD and TBI together,
It completely changes who I was as a person. I mean, I used to be the goofiest freaking dude on the planet. And now I'm just this walking flesh and bone machine of hate. But I cover it well by my coping skills, identifying things that really bring out those negative qualities. And like Luana said, it completely changes your physiology and your brain. Everything about who you used to be is gone and replaced with the trauma. And it's trying to identify that trauma and address it and make it to where you can still be a good person with that trauma. Yeah. Someone was going to share experience with PTSD. Is that you?
I have a brother with PTSD. He said that struck bomb came on that basically blew it all down.
Yeah. He was never quite the same, was he? But if I was to walk amongst you guys down the hallways, you would never really know that I have post-traumatic stress or traumatic brain injury. But someone, like in this video right here, those are all honorable dudes. It's easy to identify, well, that guy's been through some crap. He has his leg blown off. He got 75% of his skin was burnt off. Those guys are easy to identify. It's the thousands upon thousands of us that walk amongst you, and you never know. You never know if the person you just disregarded, you said hi or smiled at you, you never know if that was their last attempt at humanity. You never know if that person who tried to have a conversation with you was really crying for help. Everyone it's terrible these days because everyone's so consumed with the convenience of electronic devices, social media, that you forget about the people to your left and to your right, in front of you and behind you, the humans that surround you every day. That extra 30 seconds to smile back at somebody, heck, it's even 3 seconds, or to ask that person who's looking down, hey, what's wrong? That could be the thing that saves somebody's life. Just walking aimlessly and just disregarding someone who's making an attempt to have some kind of connection with you. That's going to be the leading cause, a huge reason why someone might end up going and hanging themselves or killing themselves. Don't be afraid to talk to each other. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to be a human. With that, I would ask if you guys have any questions, now would be an awesome time to really ask. About anything. If you want to know more about my injuries, my helmet, if you want to see my helmet, ask away.
How does your family help you?
That is a good question. My family didn't do really well with it. My first wife, while I was still in the hospital, she divorced me and tried to get rid of all my stuff. At first, I felt very betrayed because we took this vow, we're supposed to support each other. But I was very jaded with her at the time because I had that one-track mind of how they were. I didn't really consider how seeing me like that could affect her. How scarred she could have been because I was supposed to be this knight in shining armor, this tough Army Ranger. I was going to live through anything. I couldn't even spell my own son's name for a long time. So, for the best possible outcome for family members and caregivers is to seek education. Educate yourself on what your significant other is going through. Be compassionate, understanding, and communicate.
Caregivers need rest. They have to take care of themselves. They don't take care of themselves, then they're no good to that person.
Yes, and on that note, I currently work in social work. I help other people with mental illnesses identify their triggers and whatnot. And I have to be extra vigilant with my self-care because I'm carrying everyone else's burdens for 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, helping people identify things that trigger them and how they can address them. I still have to take care of myself. Yes?
Do you feel that you're at a good place right now?
I feel I am in a very good place. I didn't want to share this part of my past with you guys because of the current social climate, not in here, but out in the rest of society. At one point, right up before I tried to kill myself, I was driving around in my car, armed to the teeth, looking to fight a war that I was no longer a part of. I was drunk by 10:30 in the morning and taking pharmaceuticals with alcohol is just the recipe for disaster. You could kill you. But I was at that point where I was trying to fight a war that I was not part of. I could have got killed by a cop. I could have accidentally killed an innocent person. And now I'm at the stage of my recovery where I'm helping other people recover and take that to the next level of being a cop so I can respond, I can be there to respond appropriately to somebody who is in a mental distress. Because it would blow your mind to know how many people end up in prison, end up dead because of an undiagnosed mental illness, and law enforcement has to get involved, or they do something and one of you guys draw I want to be able to be that barrier in between death or imprisonment and diagnosis of that mental illness. So, is there any other questions? Yes.
So, talk about the problem with PTSD and how it really good treatment and diagnosis. Not just nobody talks about it because we don't know about it, or if it's something that we're actually willfully ignorant of and ignoring the problem.
There's so many different ways to answer that question. I'm going to give you my perspective, my personal experience. I think there's a lot of money in keeping people dependent on psychosocial groups, pharmaceuticals, and just having a diagnosis than there is really addressing the recovery of. And that could go with PTSD, or that could go with leukemia, whatever. I mean, I feel there's too much money to be made by pharmaceutical companies. And there's also a jaded perspective about post-traumatic stress. Oh, you just suck it up, it's not a real mental illness, you're just a pain. It's the stigma that's along with it.
And that's where somebody go jump before.
Yes, the first time I came back from Iraq, you get off the bus and you go in this hangar, you march in, your family's in the bleachers. So you're getting ready to go on a 45-day leave because you've been in combat for 18 months. But the last thing you do before they release you is they give you a piece of paper to fill out to basically assess your current mental stability. And if you answer one question wrong on that paper, you don't go see your family. You go to the hospital, they put you in a room, and they observe you for however long they want to. So you have a choice. You can answer the question honestly and not see your family that you've not seen for a year and a half. Or you can say, you know what, maybe I'm just being weak right now. So I'm going to swallow this very deep down inside so I can see my family. And then when you're out with your family at Applebee's, you chug 60 beers and end up getting shot by the cops. Because you're so afraid to say, I need help. Educate yourself. Stuff like this involving veterans, not even just veterans, anybody with a diagnosis of post-traumatic stress, and giving them a way to talk, to express themselves in a constructive way, and listen when they do talk.
Well, and he said, my PTSD is different from his. And for the longest time, I didn't know, after I was a caregiver for 7 years for my son, I didn't know why I couldn't talk or watch the video. I still interrupt the video. Until I finally went to see mental health myself because I was just overwhelmed with everything. And I was diagnosed with secondary PTSD. You can't be a caregiver and see your, 21-year-old son that you sent off in the best physical condition of his life come back to you in pieces, literally in pieces, and not be affected by it. And they released him into my care, and he was still open. His scars weren't scars, they were open wounds, and it was my responsibility to be in here for 10 hours before we could start the doctor's appointments. So I had to do all of his wound care and all of that, and I felt I was responsible. So he didn't get infections, and if he got an infection, then it had to be my fault. And I'm having to hold up this kid who walks all the way down to 110 pounds and shower him and scrub him until he's asleep, so that means he's healed. So it affects everybody within the family. It's not just the soldiers, it's everyone within the family and everyone that heard of us.
I also think that the current state of people are so desensitized to injuries, soldiers, law enforcement, anybody, because seeing people shot and blown up, it's everywhere. Video games, TV, commercials. So So you really lose touch with humanity when you subject yourself to that on a constant basis. I'm not saying don't play video games, but make an effort to hold on to a part of your humanity, connect with a person, talk to each other. Any other questions? All these young minds out here, no questions? Yes?
How did you figure out that how it was impacting that relationship?
How did I say it again?
How did you figure out that how it was impacting that relationship?
I'm a very hateful person. I just hide it well. And when you have all that anger and all that rage, you need to put it somewhere, or you're gonna do something stupid with it. So one day I was at the gym with one of my buddies, and he said, "Hey, why don't you go over and deadlift that?" I'm like, "Okay," I deadlifted. I think it was like 405 pounds, or whatever it was at the time. And I finished his deadlift workout with him, and I felt good. Because I didn't have to deny or hide that part that made up most of who I was now. I gave it something, gave it purpose. And I rode that purpose all the way out. And so I turned 40 next month, and I've deadlifted 755 pounds in competition before. I've squatted 725 pounds and bench pressed 475. All because I directed all of that energy that I had into something constructive. The trick is to knowing when that no longer works, because then you just end up beating your head up against the wall and create more frustration and more anger because what used to work no longer works. So really trial by fire is really the best way. Find things that's constructive and fun that doesn't involve drinking or drugs, or sometimes firearms. I think you had a question.
I was gonna ask, what do you think is like the best way to try and help someone with PTSD that's like, that isolates themselves?
Isolation is a huge deal, and it's not just PTSD. I see isolation all the time with my work. Isolation, alcohol, drugs, self-harm, those are all normal reactions to non-normal situations. Now, when I say that, that doesn't mean, hey, you're mad. Go lock yourself in your bathroom and start cutting yourself. I'm just saying you don't know how to come to terms with what you've experienced. And so you do these odd things to address it. Now, when you have someone who isolates, that's hard to get someone out of that comfort zone because it's comfortable to be by yourself sometimes. But then when you isolate, it makes everything else worse. Social interaction deteriorates. Your sense of self-worth is out the window. Consistency is the biggest helping factor. If you know someone who's isolating, consistently be there and consistently make attempts to re-engage them with the community or with you or family. Just be a consistent source of strength for them. Yes?
My dad was born and he can't watch food first thing in the morning. And I didn't know how that was till a few years ago, but I didn't know how to like kind of, I try and help, but then I feel like I'm not doing the right things. So I don't know how to try and help.
I think that's a wonderful thing that you're trying to get into your father and try to help him. I think oftentimes when we remove ourselves from the mindset of I'm gonna help that person, because then you start forcing your goals onto that person. The best way you can help that person is to help them understand what their goals are. Do they even want the help? You know, does your dad want to watch those movies but can't because of a trigger? And if that's the case, in my line of work, we use open-ended questions. Who here knows what an open-ended question is?
It's a question that I just know you have to explain it.
Yes. I just asked about the question second. That's a good way for you to really engage in conversation with people. Like, hey, Dad, what is it about this movie that you're not comfortable with? What is it about this genre? And when you start having those difficult conversations, you can start identifying triggers. And then when you have those triggers, then you can identify how can we cope with that trigger. That's what you want. Yes, sir.
Do you think that measuring that PTSD has the support from military PA
That's a slippery question to really answer. It's so different between VA facilities. And when you come down with a diagnosis that's going to render you non-deployable by the U.S. military, they're going to do whatever they can just to get you out so they can replace that uniform, that body in that uniform, with the healthier subject or healthier person. So they'll put half measures in place just until you're no longer their problem. And then when I was really struggling with my diagnosis, I think the VA had no idea how to treat somebody that had a dual diagnosis of post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injury. The science is not there yet in my mind, but money's to be made there, and so that's just a soldier, a veteran with post-traumatic stress, in my mind, to places like the VA and other medical providers, they're often misplaced with a dollar sign or billable hours. So no, I don't think that often a person with post-traumatic stress disorder is adequately supported. I think the intent is there, just the follow through is sorely lacking. Any other questions? Did you have one? I'm sorry. Okay, well, if there's no other questions, I'm going to release it back to Luana or whoever's in charge. And I thank you for being respectful and listening, taking the time out of your day.
Feel free to come up and take
Yes.
a card or anything, or look at his helmet. Free to go.
Yeah.
Let's give them a round of applause.
Claro. Ok.